endocrine system. This is an objective question. It asks you the two feedback mechanisms for endocrine glands. Okay, and this goes all the way back to the very beginning of the semester when we were talking about positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops. Okay, which one of those brings you back to your set point? Positive or negative? Negative. Negative brings you back to your homeostatic set point. Okay, and then positive is going to bring you farther and farther away. Okay, so the majority of our hormones are going to use negative feedback inhibition. So in our example, this picture I have for you, we've got the hypothalamus. He releases a hormone that causes the anterior pituitary to release TSH, which causes the thyroid gland to produce TH, thyroid hormone. But once there's plenty of thyroid hormone down here at the bottom, he comes back and tells the hypothalamus, we're good, there's plenty of thyroid hormone, stop producing more. Okay? So we're going to turn off the process when there's plenty, when we've got enough. Okay? So it'll go back to that set point. However, target organs can also be involved in a positive feedback cycle. For example, our example is oxytocin and uterine contractions. So, when a baby is ready to be born, he's going to flip himself around in the uterus and the head's going to be pointed down at the bottom. Okay? When that happens, that head is going to put force on the cervix. Okay? And those muscles down in the area are going to stretch. Stretch receptors are going to pick up that stretch and send information back up to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will tell the pituitary gland to release oxytocin. Okay, what does oxytocin do? Increase uterine contractions. Okay, so we've released oxytocin. The uterus is going to contract. What's going to happen to that baby? He's going to go down, and his head's going to push. Okay, it's going to eventually push out, but it pushes down more on that cervix, which causes it to stretch, which sends it up to the hypothalamus, which causes the release of more oxytocin, which causes another contraction, which pushes the head down. And so that process continues and continues and continues to give you more and more and more oxytocin. Okay, so that's positive feedback. We're going away from that base level of oxytocin. What eventually causes the oxytocin to stop being produced? The baby is born. And when the baby is born, are you pushing on the cervix anymore? No. Okay? So that baby's head stops pushing on the cervix, and so signals are no longer sent to the hypothalamus to release oxytocin. Yeah. So the effects of the oxytocin, oxytocin hormone, last for a little while. So it'll last long enough to get it out, and then stay around for a while to help that bonding between the babies. Yeah. Remember, oxytocin is our cuddle hormone. Gotta have it for attachment. Okay. Try this question. See what you think. You can talk to your buddies. All right, so who controls the anterior pituitary? It is a great question, isn't it? Thank you. Okay? The anterior pituitary is controlled by the hypothalamus. Okay? Because the hypothalamus is the boss, right? He's the boss of the pituitary gland. Remember, the hypothalamus produces those hormones, and then to get the anterior pituitary to release those hormones, he sends hormones to the anterior pituitary. It's all a bunch of hormones running around doing their thing. Okay. Your favorite part of every section, the disorders. You ready? Okay, our first hormone we're going to look at is growth hormone. What does growth hormone do? makes you grow. Okay, so it increases mitosis, things like that. Okay, so we're going to look at growth hormone deficiencies and growth hormone excesses. If there's a deficiency of growth hormone, what's going to happen? Right, and if there's an excess of growth hormone, what's going to happen? Okay, all right, so this isn't rocket science, right? So the problem comes in when this happens in a lifetime. So if the deficiency or excess happens during childhood, it's going to cause certain effects. And if the deficiency or excess happens in adulthood, it's going to cause different effects. Because what happens to your skeleton when you become an adult? It stops growing in length. What closes? The growth plates, those epiphyseal lines, epiphyseal plates on the end of long bones. Okay? So if growth hormone happens before, or excess growth hormone happens before those growth plates are fused, then the skeleton's going to keep growing. If it happens afterwards, you're not going to grow long, you're going to grow out. You're going to get girthy. Okay. So, in children, a deficiency. Not enough growth hormone, you're going to be short. Okay? And if you're short because of weight distribution, it will also probably cause mild obesity because you have less space to go. Okay? Delayed puberty because your organs and things also are not developing at the same rate. And it can be caused by a deficiency in any stat of the growth hormone release from the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, receptors, all along the pathway. Yes. Growth plates shut off faster. I'm not sure there's an association between those two. There is an association between menarche, which is your first period, and the time of menopause. So the earlier you start your period, the earlier you have menopause. The later you have menopause. But I'm not sure if there's a correlation between growth plates and not. If you want to look it up, okay. All right. In adults. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Okay, so deficiency in adults may be involved in the aging process. So remember, we're shutting, growth hormone causes mitosis to happen, which causes cells to replicate and divide. So if you've got a cell that's damaged, that needs to be replaced, you go through mitosis to replace it. Okay? So in aging, a lack of growth hormone will cause those cells to not be replaced as fast or at all. So that's going to cause some of the signs of aging that we see as things just get older and break down and aren't replaced as quickly. Okay, the question currently is, does everybody just decrease the growth hormone as we get older, or are there certain people who decrease the growth hormone quicker and have more of those aging symptoms than others? All right. Yeah, so you can give them synthetic growth hormone. Yeah. All right. Excess growth hormone. Okay, so too much. In children, if they're growing too much before their growth plates fuse, you get gigantism, which means they're going to be really, really big. Okay, we're talking off the growth chart big. Right? Then in adults, because we can't long bone growth, we're going to have to girth, grow and girth. Yeah, anyway, we're going to get thickening of the bones, which can change our facial features. I got a picture on the next slide of that. And also can increase like the size of your hands and the size of your feet as these bones are just growing in abnormal ways. Okay? So excess growth hormone is treated by using a somatostatin analog. Somatostatin is a natural hormone. It does the opposite of growth hormone. Okay? So that's its normal job in the body. And so we're putting in an analog to somatostatin, so a chemical that functions like somatostatin. So it's going to prevent the extra growth hormone from causing too many problems. Okay? A lot of times, the deficiencies and excesses in childhood aren't picked up until later in development because it just looks like they're growing faster or they're growing slower. So it really takes a clinician who is paying attention and who is running a test for that growth hormone. It's pretty easy to do. to figure out that there's a problem and then to step in and fix it. Okay, so these top two pictures are for hypo growth hormone, so not enough growth hormone in childhood, short stature, so there's a van, there's the guy. Okay, hyper growth hormone, too much growth hormone, gigantism, okay, so really, really big. And then this is too much growth hormone in an adult, so acromegaly. Normal facial features as an adolescent, but you can see over time, as the bone structure changes in the face, the facial features will change, okay? And her hands also are bigger, okay? So acromegaly is in adults, gigantism is in childhood. Okay, ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. What is the job of anti-diuretic hormone? What does it do? Prevent something. Uh-huh. The body. Okay. So anti-diuretic hormone prevents water loss. So it keeps you from becoming dehydrated. The way I remember this, so a diuretic is something that makes you pee a lot. So an anti-diuretic is something that's going to keep you from peeing a lot. So that's like the fancy scientific way of remembering it. But diuretic sounds like diarrhea to me. And so diarrhea is where water comes out of you. And so we're anti-water coming out of you. Right? It works. Okay. Not completely scientific, but hey, that's what we do. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get my computer pulled up on my phone because my tablet died. All right. So this one, diabetes insipidus. This is a lack of ADH. So if ADH prevents you from losing water, not having enough of it is going to cause you to lose water. Okay? So water is not reabsorbed into the kidney. So the normal path of water is you drink the water, it goes into your blood supply. When it gets to the kidney is going to soak out a whole lot of the water. But then it's going to say, okay, how much do I need to put back in? And it will put that water back in, and it will go back to the blood supply. The rest of it goes out as urine. In diabetes insipidus, the water gets pulled out, but then there's no ADH there to say put it back in. So all that water that you took out gets peed out. So dehydration is a big issue for diabetes insipidus. Okay? So urine is very dilute, lots of water, and the plasma is more concentrated, so it doesn't have as much water in it, but a lot of protein. Huge urine volume is made and excreted. Yeah. It's a diuretic, yeah. Yeah. All right, so this one, diabetes insipidus can either be genetic or it can be a symptom of another disease. So if you have problems with your pituitary gland, if you have a tumor, you may have diabetes insipidus. But it can also be passed down from generation to generation. It is in my daughter's family. So my daughter is adopted. Her mom is a carrier for diabetes insipidus. It's an X-linked trait. So both of her brothers, two of her brothers have diabetes insipidus. They're just born with it. So they have to be really careful, make sure they're well hydrated. They just carry water around with them at all times. And they just try to stay well hydrated. When Deborah was little, she used to pee, well, she still pees all the time, but she would pee all the time, like crazy amounts of water in her diaper. It was intense. So I started reading some journal articles, as you do, as a science mom, and found like these random cases of like just a small percentage of girls who are carriers for diabetes insipidus. It was possible for them to have symptoms of the disease. Okay, so I printed off my little article, and I started doing some studies. I would weigh Deborah's diaper, so I took a couple of dry diapers and weighed them all, got an average weight, and then would weigh every diaper that was wet, subtract the average weight of the actual diaper to get a weight of the urine output, and recorded all of her bottles, so we knew how much went And so I had a percentage for each day of how much of her urine was secreted. And I took my little article and I took my table to the pediatrician and I said, do we have an issue here? Because this might be a thing. And she looked at me like I was crazy and said, she looks okay. She's not dehydrated. Go home. So that's what we did. So, whether she has diabetes insipidus or not, I don't know. She still drinks a whole lot, and she pees a whole lot. So, as long as we keep her hydrated, that's all that matters, right? Right. Okay. There we go. So here we go. Here's a question. Talk to your buddy. See if you can answer this question. All right, guys. Number one, what hormone is he producing in excess? Growth hormone. Number two, if we don't correct it, what's he going to have? Gigantism. Good. And then number three, his headaches. What are they from? That giant tumor that's on his pituitary. Oh. Good. All right. So that is the end of the pituitary gland. We are moving along. Our next gland is still in the brain. Okay. Our next gland is the pineal gland. So if you remember from your sheep brain dissection, there was one point where you took the cerebrum, or you took the cerebellum, and you held them, and you went whoop, and you could see the corpora quadratumina in there, and you could see the little tongue from the pineal gland sticking out. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. It says the pineal gland is attached to the root of the third ventricle. So that's where it's located, back there between your cerebrum and cerebellum. Its size regresses with age, so it gets smaller and smaller. The pineal gland is important for producing serotonin during the day and melatonin at night. So it's part of what controls your sleep-wake cycles and your circadian rhythms. There may also be a relationship between melatonin and mood, including depression and sleep disorders. So, you guys up here in Indiana, this is my second winter here. Guys, it's already winter, right? The skies are gray. There is no sunshine, and snow keeps falling from the sky. There's a disorder called seasonal affective disorder, SAD, S-A-D. And one of the theories as to why it makes you so sad and gloomy is because of the melatonin release. So melatonin is released at night, calms you down, lets you go to sleep. I feel right. And when there isn't sunshine out, your body just keeps producing more melatonin. So one of the treatments is to sit in front of a sad light. Okay, so you have a little lamp, and that light will reduce melatonin production, increase serotonin production, and hopefully make you feel happy in the cold, cold, gray north. Yes. So, older adults have a more controlled sleep-wake cycle, but they also sleep less at night too. Like the number of hours they're required to sleep reduces. So you regress. The hormone level also decreases with that. So it's just, I don't know why they don't have more sleep issues, but maybe they do. If you want to read something about it, you want to. Yes. some forms of it are you have more genetic predisposition to it. Yeah. 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 So there is some genetic correlation. There's a lot of genetic correlation to a lot of our mood disorders. Yeah. Yeah. It, so it is common for us who are used to sunshine and for it not to be 18 degrees every morning, and for the snow not to fall down every day. Because we're used to happiness and we're used to sunshine. And then we move to places like this that are sad and gray, and it makes us sad. So yeah, it's just what your brain is used to. That your brain is used to those hormones being there, and then you move somewhere and they're not. It can have a bigger effect. Yeah. Harder for you to sleep. I don't know if it makes harder for you to sleep, but there have been studies that have shown that people with seasonal affective disorder that are north, when they move south, where they do have that more sunshine and warmer temperatures, they are happier. So, I'm not sure how it affects sleep. You're welcome to look that up too. All right. Enough talking about the sadness of the weather. Okay, the thymus, he's next. The thymus is located in the medial sinus. It's just right on top of the heart. And it says it undergoes involution during puberty. So you're born with a highly active thymus. It produces a lot of hormones, and it's also the site of T cell activation, or not activation, but his development and his education. But during puberty, it shrivels up and there's not much left. And in this case, you're not producing much of the hormone. Most of your T cells are already ready, and you're done. Okay. So the thymus secretes thymosins, that's the name of the hormones, that regulate the development and activation of your T lymphocytes, which are your T cells. So they're important in going out and fighting infections. Okay. All right. Our next hormone is the thyroid, which is found up here in your neck. Okay, located below the larynx. And if we look at a microscopic picture of the thyroid, this is what we're going to see. And there's two general types of cells. There are follicular cells, which line this opening that's full of colloid. So it's like a package of fluid goo. Okay? What lives in here is the precursor to the hormones we're going to make. Okay? And then over here you have patches of what are called parafollicular cells, or C cells. Okay, and so these are our two types of cells we're looking at. And they produce two different types of hormones. Okay, so our first types of cells we're going to look at are our follicular cells. They secrete thyroxine, which is also known as T4, and iodothyronine, which is also known as T3. And together, collectively, they're called TH, or thyroid hormone. Okay, so there's not anything you need to know. But the pre-hormone that lives here in the colloid is a big molecule. When you cut them, you can't cut them right down the middle. You cut them off to the side a little bit. And what your two products you end up with are T4 and T3. Okay? But then, when you get to the target cell, T4 is converted to T3. So you end up with two pieces that aren't exactly the same. But then when they get to the target cell, this one turns into this one. So all you end up with at the target cell is T3. Okay? So, T3 is thyroid hormone. So, T3 on target cells increase oxygen consumption, which causes what we call the calorogenic effect. So you're increasing the metabolism of that cell. Okay? And when you increase the metabolism of the cell, you're producing a whole lot of ATP, and you're also producing heat. So you're generating heat as a side effect. Okay? This effect is stimulated by cold weather. Because when you're cold, you need to make heat. And one of the ways is to increase metabolism. Okay? And we got kind of off on a talk about this in last class, so I just want to go ahead and say it. You are increasing metabolism to generate heat in cold weather, but your body also wants to build up fat deposits to give you insulation. So it's a big balancing act of breaking down fat to get energy from it and create heat, and storing fat to get insulation and protect your inner organs. Okay, so it's a balancing out between the two. Okay, our C cells, which are the parafollicular cells in here, produce calcitonin. What does calcitonin sound like? Calcium. So calcitonin has something to do with calcium. Okay, and he is going to lower blood calcium levels. So he's going to take calcium out of the blood and put it somewhere. Where does calcium want to go? Where is it stored? In the bones. So calcitonin will increase calcium deposition in the bones. Okay? All right, now, thyroid problems. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you have a deficiency in calcitonin, so it can cause weak bones, because you aren't pushing more calcium into the bones, so you're losing calcium. So it causes weak bones, high calcium levels in the blood. We're going to talk about it a little bit when we talk about parathyroid hormone, which is the opposite. But if the calcium stays in the blood and isn't deposited somewhere else, you can end up with things like kidney stones and things like that. All right, so problems with thyroid hormones. These are pretty common, so you probably are going to see these in the clinical setting. There is hyperthyroidism, so too much thyroid hormone, and hypothyroidism, not enough thyroid hormone. Okay, so I'm going to call thyroid hormone TH because it's just a lot easier to say as we go. Okay, so if you have too much TH, we know that that increases metabolism. So what are some of the symptoms going to be? How are you going to feel all the time? Hot. You're going to be hot because your metabolism is really high. Your cells are working a lot. You're going to be hot. Okay? You're going to be what? You're going to be thin. You're going to have rapid weight loss because your cells are using all that fat and sugar for energy. It's not going to be stored away. So weight loss. Okay? What about your heart rate? It's going to be up all the time because you got to get blood to those cells that are doing metabolism. What about your breathing rate? Quicker, right? Because you're getting oxygen to those cells. Tremors and muscle weakness, shortness of breath, exophthalmos, which is bulging eyeballs, can also be a symptom, and sweating, and the presence of a goiter, which is an enlarged thyroid gland right here. Okay, if the thyroid is producing TH, the thyroid may get bigger if he's overstimulated. Okay? All right. The most common cause of hyperthyroidism is Graves' disease, which is where your body produces thyroid-stimulating hormones. So these, I'm on the track of hormones, thyroid-stimulating antibodies, sorry. So antibodies are usually produced by your body to go and attack bacteria and viruses and things like that, attach to them and kill them. But these antibodies will bind to and activate the thyroid. So now the thyroid is producing TH when it doesn't necessarily need to. Okay? How do we diagnose it? We do a blood test, and we look for elevated levels of TH. Right, makes sense. Okay? Symptoms are there again, as well as over in the diagram. Treatment. We can give them drugs that inhibit the production of TH. Right? Okay? Or, if that doesn't work, we can remove the thyroid gland. However, if you remove the thyroid gland, you have to synthetically give them thyroid hormone. So they have to take thyroid hormone to replace the thyroid hormone that was being produced by the thyroid. And that is a delicate balancing act. You've got to make sure you give them enough thyroid hormone because their body isn't regulating it on their own. So you always have to be constantly checking and changing those dosages. Okay? So removal of the thyroid gland is possible, but probably isn't going to be the first thing to do. Okay. The opposite then is hypothyroidism. So, what are some of the symptoms? Weight gain, yes, you're going to get bigger. Okay? You're going to be cold, decreased heat production and cold sensitivity. Your heart is going to slow down. Breathing is going to slow down. lethargy and mental slowness. It's gonna be like you're in Indiana winter. Okay? Drooping eyelids, slowness in growth, slowness in mental abilities, and a goiter can also be a symptom of hypothyroidism. So a goiter can be hyper or hypo. We'll talk about why here in a second. Okay, so what can cause it? Autoimmune mediated destruction of the thyroid gland. So your body attacks its thyroid gland. Okay, if your thyroid gland is being attacked, it can't produce TH. Hypothalamic or pituitary failure, because that thyroid is stimulated by TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which came from your anterior pituitary, which was given signals by your hypothalamus. So anywhere in that pathway can be damaged. Okay? Or iodine deficiency. So one of the primary components of TH is iodine. So you need to make sure you have a balanced amount of iodine in your diet. In America, we've decided, by the way, have y'all seen many people with goiters around? No, it doesn't happen. It does, but just not very frequently. And one of the things that we've done to prevent this is to iodize our salt. So we put iodine in salt so that we have a good background level of iodine in our bodies to prevent goiters. Okay. All right. Diagnosis. How do we know you have hypothyroidism? Yeah. Yeah, so that goes into that lethargy and just kind of, yeah, so if you're lethargic, you're going to sleep a lot. Okay, so we can look for low TH levels, okay? Hypothyroidism, that's the definition right there. Okay, but we can also look at TSH levels. TSH, remember, is thyroid stimulating hormone. So TSH is what tells that thyroid to release TH. Okay? So it can be either high or low. If it's high, that means that even though the thyroid isn't producing TH, something is telling that thyroid, hey, there's not enough thyroid hormone, get on the ball, make us some more. Still not any made, we have to increase TSH. Still not any made, we keep increasing TSH. We can cause the thyroid to expand, but if there's something else going on like an iodine deficiency, we still can't make TH because there's no iodine present that is required to make TH. Okay? So if TSH is high, then it's probably more something like an iodine deficiency, something wrong with that thyroid itself. Okay? If TSH is low, that means that we aren't producing thyroid hormone, and we aren't producing thyroid hormone because our thyroid isn't getting TSH. We're not getting TSH because something is happening upstream, so either in the anterior pituitary or in the hypothalamus. Okay, so we're not even getting the signal. We're not even getting the TSH at the thyroid to cause us to produce thyroid hormone. Okay, so TSH levels are very important in deciding where in the pathway the problem is. Yes. It can be. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so with a lot of these things, there's just genetic predispositions for them, where you can inherit the predisposition for it, where it's more likely for you to get it, but then still environmental impacts can affect it. All right, and we've already talked about symptoms. Again, with hypothyroidism, try to figure out where the problem is, but if you're not producing enough TH, you can give them TH. Okay? But again, it's balancing the right levels and right dosage. Okay, some pictures, the genetic thing. So congenital hypothyroidism is genetic, it's passed down. You get it as a baby. And hypothyroidism, they are born with no or a little bit of a thyroid. Okay? If you don't have a thyroid, you're not producing TH. So this is one of the things that they do a test for when you're in the hospital when you have a newborn. So they do that genetic screen. This is one of the things they test for. Because if they find it early, they can give them TH and they're fine. If they don't catch it, and they don't give them TH, then it can cause growth issues. Okay? And then picture of the goiter and picture of those bulging eyeballs. Okay. Parathyroid glands. Parathyroid glands are located on the back of the thyroid gland. There's usually 4 of them, 4 little patches. Okay? And the parathyroid secrete parathyroid hormone. Yes! Finally one that makes sense, right? You don't have to memorize. Just say those two go together. Okay, what you do need to know, though, is what it does. So parathyroid hormone, or PTH, is released in response to low blood calcium. So he works in opposition to who? What was your other calcium-related hormone? Calcitonin. Okay, so they're going to do opposite things. So PTH promotes calcium absorption through the intestines. So any calcium you eat, it increases the uptake of that calcium to get it into your blood. It inhibits urinary excretion of calcium, so it prevents you from getting rid of any calcium you have. And it increases osteoclast activity. What do the osteoclasts do? They break down the bone, right? So we're breaking down bone and putting it into the blood, putting that calcium into the blood. So if you have hyperparathyroidism, you're going to have this guy working too much. You're going to get elevated plasma levels of calcium. These symptoms are what you were talking about a little bit ago, Dave. These are going to be what happens when you have too much calcium in your blood, okay? Which can also happen if there's a problem with calcium, just the opposite problem, okay? Calcium and phosphate ions, it's going to soften your bones because you're pulling the calcium off of them, and it can cause the kidney stones to develop because you have those calcium deposits. All right, we're doing good. Okay, try these 2 problems with your buddy. For number 2, thyroxine is thyroid hormone. All right, number 1, what does he do? Parathyroid hormone does what? D. His job is to raise blood calcium levels, right? And he does that by demineralizing bone, increasing osteoclast activity. Okay? Letter A, increases bone formation and lowers blood calcium level. Who does that? Calcitonin. Okay. B and C, increases calcium excretion. Okay, you don't want that because you want to keep the calcium in. C, decreases calcium absorption from the gut. You don't want that because it's not going to get calcium into the body. All right, number 2, absence of TH would result in okay, what does TH do? It increases metabolism. So your heart rate, increases heat, things like that. So if you don't have TH, are you going to have an increased heart rate? No, because that's his job is to increase heart rate. Exophthalmos is the bulgy eyes. That's too much TH. High metabolic rate, that is a lot of TH. So depression of the CNS and lethargy. So just, tiredness. That's going to be TH, or absence of TH. Okay. Adrenal glands. So, adrenal glands are located on top of your kidneys. They're considered retroperitoneal, so they're not in that main body cavity. And they're separated into two regions, the medulla and the cortex. So the medulla is the inside, the cortex is the outside. So a Tootsie Pop, the Tootsie Roll on the inside is the medulla, and the sucker part is the cortex. Okay? So you can see the pictomicrograph over here. Luckily, you guys don't need to know the orders or the zones over here, so don't worry about those. But you are going to know which hormones are secreted from which layer. And I got 1 minute, and this slide is stuff you already know, so we'll end on that. The adrenal medulla, the Tootsie Roll in the middle, secretes catecholamines, which are epinephrine and norepinephrine. They do it in response to the sympathetic nervous system, and their effects mimic the sympathetic nervous system, but last longer because they're secreted in the bloodstream. Okay, you guys already know that. It's just stuff from the other chapter. All right? So Friday, we will finish the endocrine system, talk about your final exam, bring questions if you have them, and then Monday we'll test.